Some of you may have heard about the mother who went into her son's bedroom on a Sunday morning, said, "Get up, it's time to go to church." He said, yeah. 15 minutes later, she went back and he was still asleep. So she said, "Come on, it's getting late. Get up for church." Yeah, he says. 15 minutes later, she comes back and he's still asleep. So she said, "Come on," she says, "it's getting late and you're going to be late for church." He said, "I decided I'm not going to church today." She said, "What do you mean you're not going to church?" He says, "I'm not going to church, and I'll give you two good reasons." He says, "One, they don't like me and I don't like them." She said, "Well, I'll give you two good reasons why you are going. You're 50 years old and you're the pastor." If anyone thinks pastors don't have days like that, you'd be very mistaken. I can think of many such days over 40 years when I didn't want to get out of bed either because of the task that might lay ahead that day. And you know, at times of anniversaries, when we look back, it's easy to gloss over some of the more difficult times, to celebrate only what's good. But anniversaries are about both the good and the bad. They're about the highs and the lows and the strides and the pitfalls. Little did I know when I stood before Cardinal Medeiros back in 1972 what priesthood and ministry would really entail. The wonderful, faith-filled people, the exceptional opportunity to share in life's most sacred moments from birth to death, to know the loneliness of celibacy, but also the richness of true friendship, and of course, the loving faithfulness of God. But then, of course, there are those embarrassing moments too, aren't there? When I first became a pastor in Middlebow, I was greeting people as they left church, trying to make a good impression, of course. This young family came up to me, a mother and a father, two little girls. They came over to welcome me to the parish. They were very warm and friendly. And I noticed that the mother's belly was bulging. So I asked her when she was due. She told me she wasn't pregnant. Several months later, that same couple, where family was coming out of church, she was clearly pregnant. But I had learned my lesson. And she came up to me in a very loud voice, pointed at her belly, and she said, "This is all your fault." And of course, the story just points to the humanity of being a priest. That phrase is talked about a lot today in terms of the abuse crisis. But that's not really so much what I'm talking about. I'm just referring to being a human being in the person of a priest, accepting all one's foibles and frailty with humor, and remembering most of all that it was Peter who God called first. A few weeks ago, an elderly man in the parish approached me and asked me if I'd come to his house to bless his house and his wife. His wife had dementia and she believed that the house was being haunted by strange men. And so I said, sure. I went to the house after a 4 o'clock Mass on Saturday afternoon, and it was just kind of getting to be dusk and it was very dim. And I went into the house and there were no lights on, but I could still see. And I anointed the lady and I reassured her that I would bless the house and that we would get rid of any demons that were there. So I took some holy water and I went from room to room. And I went into the final bedroom, and all of a sudden I was face to face with this man all dressed in black. And I thought maybe she knew something that the rest of us didn't. Until I realized it was a full-length mirror and I was looking at myself. And when you think about it, I do get startled by myself sometimes. It's startling when I realize that it's been 40 years that I've been a priest. I'm startled to think that God called me to be his priest. I'm startled each time that God tells me, "You are my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And I'm startled that almost 5 years ago I said yes to St. Michael's Parish with all its complexities. And yet we look around today and we see so much wonderful ministry happening. As you know, I try very hard to make my homilies not about my agenda, but about God's. But today I think it's about a little bit of both. I celebrate how God has been in my life and how he continues to form me into the person and the priest that he wants me to be. I celebrate those most important in my life: my sister Mary, my good friend Father Bob, and of course, all of you who have loved me and supported me through so much. For the priesthood would be nothing without you and your faith. 40 years ago, a homilist at my first Mass quoted Dag Hammarskjöld. I'd like to end my homily today with that exact same quote, and it's very simple. For all that has been, thanks. For all that will be,